So, good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board meeting for Tuesday, September 17th. If we could all rise for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rick Robertson, will you please call the roll?
I would be happy to call the roll, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Hugo.
Here.
Trustee Fike.
Here.
Trustee Raridan.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Here.
Myself. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7 members present, a quorum.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. However, I'd like to just add something on item 7D. We're going to be considering a motion to approve a resolution 24-35 honoring the achievements of Grand Blanc native Olympian Grant Fisher. I want to add to that we consider making August 2nd, which is the day that he won the bronze in the 10,000 meter, that we make that Grant Fisher Day here in Grand Blanc Township. Okay. So, anyways, we'll get to that. But if that's acceptable, I'll entertain a motion. So Ms. Hugo makes the motion, supported by Dr. Raridan.
For Hugo, supported by Raridan, to approve the agenda as amended. Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, and now we reserve some time for the public to make comment. We asked the public, anybody that wants to comment, to keep their comments limited to 3 minutes. And we have comment cards over here if anybody wishes to speak. We do have one individual, Susan Fisher, that would like to speak.
Caring about Grand Blanc Township as much as I do. Hi, and thank you, honorary board members and everybody here. Police, firefighters. Oh, darn, I forget I'm quiet now. Okay, hi, I'm Susan Fisher, and I would like to make a proposal, not on my knee or anything, but what I was considering, or would love you to consider, as you may or may not know, I have a terminal illness, and I've had a series of blight complaints, and I do take accountability for my mess. It takes a lot for me to do stuff, so I took accountability, and I was glad that Eric closed the case. But what I was thinking, see, I don't get help, because people just assume I'm fine, and at my age, I'm not a senior, so people don't want to help, really. As far as government or, others. So I was wondering if there's a way we could start something, God bless you, if there's a way that we could start something up where, not to make money from it or anything, but to help people that have a terminal illness instead of blighting them. Because I was sad and frustrated, and not to bring my feelings in, because I know governmental things don't necessarily care about feelings, but the truth is, I was a teacher for a long time until my cancer. I had a detention once. I've never really been in trouble. I had a couple of speeding tickets. I worked 16 hours a day, and I know there are others like that. That have worked hard their whole life, and they want to consider help. They want to keep helping people. So I'd like you to consider us helping people that may not be of age to help them. Have a community thing, possibly, and if there's one in effect, please let me know, because I reached out to about 9 people. And I even asked for stickers for my trash, so I could have it handicapped, so they could take it back up for me, and I guess they don't have that either. So there are some, and if there are, I could be wrong, please, I love to be corrected. I do, especially if I'm wrong. So I was just wondering if that's available. And if not, please, can we get one started? Because people that maybe aren't 62 but have worked their tokas off their whole life, they want to follow the laws and the rules, but maybe they just can't. I had other stuff, but right now I think that's a priority, because this isn't just about me. This is about our community and helping.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Your help
Okay.
or consideration.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board, and we will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda at this time. If there's a motion, Mr. Fike makes that motion,
Motion by Fike,
supported by Mr. White.
supported by White on the consent agenda. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
And just a comment with regard to public comment, we don't necessarily, we hear everything that's being said, but we don't alter our agenda to go into that, but we have your contact information. If we have any resources that we can refer you to, we'll certainly do that, okay? Okay, thank you. The next item is our old business, and that's strategic plan update with regard to our DPW and Fire Department building presentation. Mr. Limata?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Tonight, you're going to see a brief presentation, and we'll open it up for some Q&A. As you know, on the rest of your agenda in new business, you're being asked to look at the motion to approve the recommendation from Frank Rewald and Sons as a construction manager. We do have Kurt here from Frank Rewald who can answer questions for us as we move into that. And after that, you're going to be asked to take a look at the resolution to approve the sale of bonds so that we can finance the building of the new DPW and fire station. This is a big investment for the township, and it's been a long time coming. We've recognized it and did the space needs assessment going back when they built the police station back in 2007. We re-updated those in 2016, I think it was, to look at the space needs, and looked at it again when we started this project back in 2021. So it's been a long process. I can tell you I couldn't be prouder of the team that came together to put the thing together. Everybody from our internal staff, our DPW department, our fire chief and deputy chief, and then of course our project managers with Plant Moran Real Point. Rick Erickson is here representing Plant Moran, and he's going to kick off the presentation. We also have Bobby Benzinski here and Roger Sweats as we move in to talk about the resolution and getting this thing financed and funded so that we can move it forward, that are here as a resource to answer questions for the board. It's a big commitment. I know that when we have the resolution in front of you, not to exceed $35 million, I think you'll be happy with where anticipated costs are coming in, both in construction and soft costs. And
Mr. Lehman, if you could just take just 2 minutes and recap. I know, some of our residents don't realize how critical it is that we build this new fire department building. And maybe just to recap why, I thought, I hear residents say, I thought we already had a fire department building down here. Maybe you can just recap what the importance of us building this new facility.
Absolutely. This really goes back to 2019 when the township jointly operated the fire department with the city of Grand Blanc. And at that time, it was uncovered in 2016 a real critical need to increase the funding that we had for our fire department because we couldn't afford to buy new apparatus. And we were underfunding, and then the way it was currently set up, the township was picking up a larger share of the cost than we should have been. So once we did the cost of service study and determined that we had been really funding city operations to the tune of around $280,000 annually, if my memory serves me correctly, we started new negotiations with the city on how to make the funding more equitable for the residents of both communities. Unfortunately, The city disagreed and decided that they would rather fund their own fire department, which was fine. We pulled out, but we had a fire station up here, but it wasn't manned. It wasn't our 24/7 fire, because the only one that was really set up to do that was in the city in downtown. So we had about, I think, 9 weeks to build quarters to put our fire department, our 24-hour guys, to give them living quarters in this building. This is an old armory building, was designed to be an armory building, and we have built walls, taken walls down. We've got people operating out of closets. We've got, even in the 3.5 years or almost 4 years that the 7 individuals here, you have watched us remodel and remodel again and remodel again. We're just at a critical space. We have grown. We've got 40,000 residents we need to take care of. Our service calls are higher than they've ever been, but we just don't have the space for it. Then we take the fire department and add them in. A year later, we added in Parks and Recreation. So we really started busting at the seams. But why it's really important for our firefighters is because one of the things firefighters face in their careers is an increase of cancer. It has to do with carcinogenic chemicals that get on their clothing from fighting fires, right? And they have to be able to come back, get that off of them, get those into a washer and dryer, get those clean, and get into clean gear. You need to be able to keep that separate. Well, we've got them in the garage out here. It was designed for a garage for fire trucks to run in and out of. The living quarters, quite frankly, or the sleeping quarters, used to be where we kept the tires for the mechanics. And we had to close that off and turn it into sleeping quarters. It was not ideal in any way, shape, or form, but we did what we had to do. Thank God for the firefighters. They stepped up and came in. Thank God for my DPW, former DPS Director Jeff Sears really took that thing. Assistant Director Greg Boggs really stepped up, and we got that thing built in about 6 weeks and got them moved in here. But always knowing that it was supposed to be a temporary stopgap measure. We thought 2 years. That was in, like June of 2019. Well, we're in September of 2024, and I know they're tired of me having me say this, but don't worry, we're only like 2 years away from getting you into the new building. But we truly think that this is going to be, you'll see yourself that the building should be substantially completed by the end of 2025. There's some caveats having to do with consumers' energy and transformers, but maybe they won't occupy till early 2026.
And we're building this to last the next, 60, 75 years probably. So we're not just building it for the capacity that we need right now, but we're looking into the future with this facility as well.
That's correct, Mr. Supervisor. This is for the long haul. I think that the next thing, if the township builds anything, as you know, we used ARPA funds to completely remodel and upgrade Fire Station Number 2 on Baldwin Road. This is going to be brand new and designed to meet us for the foreseeable future. I think if the township is ever down the road 25 years, it would probably be to put in a substation, but it wouldn't be to replace what we're building today. This is going to be their home for long after all of us are gone, I can guarantee you.
Thanks. I just wanted to set the stage for people that may not know, our situation that our firefighters have been living in and working out of. And like you said, the separation between equipment, fire trucks, and sleeping quarters is kind of very tight quarters.
We also had to put ourselves in a position to financially be able to move this forward, and this board has done that by aggressively going after the legacy costs in our post-employment benefits of both, the defined benefit, police pension plan, and the retiree health care. We made some significant changes, ended both of those programs to new hires, and then took the additional funds as we were finally coming back from the recession of 2008. Don't forget, it took us 14 years to get back to the same taxable value we had before the recession, yet we never stopped going after those legacy costs, and we've done a phenomenal job. By doing that, that's what frees up our general fund monies that enables us to fund the fire station to move forward.
Phenomenal. Okay. Well, I just wanted to help set the stage a little bit. Mr. Fike?
All right, are we on A right now?
We are. We're going to go into the presentation now if we, but I think we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the plan here. I wanted to make sure we set the stage for the public here. So, Mr. Lehman, to go forward.
With that, I'd like to introduce Rick Erickson, Plant Ran Real Point, and Project Manager Guru, who's been holding our hand through this whole process.
And my pleasure, thank you. Do I need a little help with the TV to get the, do we need?
Let's see, let me turn, let's see.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to invite Kurt up here. He's been instrumental through this phase, and
Good evening, everyone. The gentleman's name again?
this is Kurt Ryder. He's with Frank Rewald and Sons. They are the construction managers for the process.
The light's not
project.
on here.
Always something easy.
Greg, the light on this though, I don't see it. On this device right here? Okay.
This is the right one, we have the right input?
Yes.
We're on.
Yep. It's on ready.
This is like me trying to find the football game on.
Bear with us, everyone.
Should come up on the other two though.
Something.
Maybe try and. It's so slow. Is that plugged in correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's,
October 4th.
Yeah. Oh, something.
at least we'll be entertained. Is it?
Do you want to stand at ease at the call of the chair, Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, let's, we'll take a 10-minute break and get our technical.
Let's rock and
All right,
roll.
we'll, I got it. We'll bring the meeting back to order
Thank you.
and carry on, please. Thanks.
Again, Rick Erickson, Plant Moran Rail Point, and I'm here with Kurt Ryder with Frank Rewald and Sons. They're the construction managers for the project. And I prepared a presentation that'll give you just a very high-level summary of kind of what we've been up to since we last presented here at the end of design development phase, update on budget schedule, and our next steps. So this is an overview of the bid phase, and I've boiled it down to 7 bullet points, which is probably oversimplifying what we've been up to, and primarily Kurt here, over the past few months. And if you want to chime in on all the meetings and the documents you've gone through and the sorting and the questioning, feel free to chime in. But just high level, DAG, who is the architect of record for the project, they completed the construction documents and released bid documents early July. Kurt prepared bid packages and released them towards the end of July. Kurt also conducted a pre-bid site walkthrough on August 6th. We received bids on August 7th, and then Kurt conducted the post-bid interviews from August 28th through September 9th, and that was a series of, 3 or 4 full-day or half-day meetings that some members of the Grand Plain Township team were involved in. And then lastly, Kurt developed the final GMP, which is the guaranteed maximum price, and that's based on the final bids of the subcontractors. So those are final hard bid numbers. So I want to pause here because I know there's a lot more that you put into this that's not reflected. Is there anything else you want to share? I don't want to undersell everything you've done through this phase.
I think it's important to just reiterate, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for having us. We're humbled and grateful that we built your guys' monumental project, and we're happy to be here. Just one other quick thing to add to the bid process. We received a total of 144 bids for this project from subcontractors. I think that's exceptional bids, and as we get into the GMP here, I think you'll see through the bid results, the township received great pricing. It was an attractive project to the subcontractors, being a ground-up greenfield building, and I think timing of the project was exceptional as well. And so I think between the number of bids and the bidders, the township received great pricing, and the budget will reflect that as well. So I just wanted to point out the number of bids that was received, and there's a lot of effort that went into soliciting those bids and making sure that the township did get those good bids. So we were proud of that and happy to see that. So
Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate that. So this is what Kurt was alluding to. So this is a summary of our cost estimates through the various design phases. So back in September, we completed the schematic design cost estimate. When I say we, Kurt did. And we were, at that point, around 28 million. And in March, we continued developing the construction documents, adding more detail, which gave Kurt more information-based bids on or estimates on. And we were coming in at just over 30 million at that point. And then through this last round of document development and actual hard bids, and again, timing of the market, we are now at the GMP is set for just over 24 million. So that's a pretty good drop from where we were back in March. I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions specifically related to the budget and the GMP.
The significant difference is mainly due to just the bids that we received, right? I mean,
Yeah, it was that. It was, as Kurt mentioned, it was the timing of the market where there was no reduction in program, significant reductions in the building systems or the final product reflected in the bid documents. I think it had more to do with the timing and the attractive nature of, like Kurt said, a ground-up project that's going to be a monumental, facility for the community.
right. Yeah, that was a, concern. We didn't want to skimp on the project to save money, so that's commendable that we were able to save that much and yet keep intact our original plans.
Right.
I've got a question.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Fike?
Regarding Rewald, how were they chosen to do this project? Were there a lot of companies that came in, and then at the end, you picked Rewald, and why them?
We voted on it here, I believe.
Yeah,
Do you remember the number of companies that we interviewed, Rick, to start the project? I mean,
we received bids from, probably a dozen.
I was going to say 12.
Criteria-based selection process, so the township defined the specific criteria that we weighted, and then we went through the proposals. There's probably a dozen proposals that we received. We shortlisted the 3 or 4 to interview, and then ultimately Frank Rewald was our recommendation and what the board approved.
Now, do you have any, do you focus on local contractors at all, or does that matter whether they're from our area of Genesee County?
we typically try to implement a merit and price-based approach, and we asked the question to the township early on in the process if there are to be any formal requirements, then ultimately the decision for the recommended contractor is the owner's selection, and we talk about it as a team. So it's a collaborative effort, I guess, is what I'm saying.
We also put some language in, I believe, as an amendment too, that gave some priority to those that had apprenticeship programs, were affiliated with trade union workers, things of that nature as well.
Correct.
Can you refresh everyone's memory in regards to SD, DD, and GMP?
Yep, sorry, last time I did that, I said I was going to spell that out.
problem.
So SD is schematic design, that's the very first phase of design, and that's really just establishing the floor plan and perhaps some high-level conceptual elevations renderings. DD is design development, so you're adding more detail, mechanical systems, really fine-tuning room layouts, adjacencies, things like that, picking finishes. And then obviously the last step is construction documents or bid documents, and that's with all the detail that the contractor needs to bid out the project.
I think it's important to note that the amount of work that even went into the schematic design from the time they started, and of course, everybody's putting in their needs and wants and big want list. And then I drove everybody crazy by delaying the project about 6 months by saying, cut that out, take that out, lose this. I want to build a building that is functional, that works, but one that we can afford to build. And so it added us several months, and I know I drove Kurt crazy, for having to go back through and keep changing things, as well as through the Detroit Architecture Group on how many changes we made. And it was a lengthy process. But to get where we were, to say, okay, now we're at a place where I feel like I can afford the building to move forward. And then when we had the DD costs come in, I was like, man, it's getting up there again where I've got some concerns, and then being able to come back and deliver the product that they delivered, it makes me feel very, very comfortable moving forward.
Well, and I think the process we put in place with having, the project manager, general contractor, what have you, I think really was wise for us to go that route. And I think, I don't think the general public realizes the amount of work that's gone into this project, even to bring us to this, before a shovel's in the ground. But you and your staff are to be commended too, Dennis, on, I saw even just the IT schematic, Nate Lucevelt and our IT working on that every time there was a change made. So, Clerk Robertson, you had a question?
So the figure that we're dealing with now is the 24,687,262, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to be clear on that point. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Kilmer?
Is that a not-to-exceed number, or how is that?
I think we're going to discuss how that number's arrived at and where we're going to be. So,
Yeah,
we're just starting into the presentation here.
Dive in. Go ahead.
Thank you. If there's no further questions on budget, I'll move on to the next slide, which is project schedule. So the first three activities here were completed. That's the program validation, schematic design, design development, construction documents that we just talked about. And we are now at the end of the bid award phase. And with the board's approval tonight, we will move into the construction phase, construction commencement phase. And we see that starting September 19th, which might be a little aggressive, but that's our target, running through October 15th of 2026. And then that'll be followed up with a couple months of closeout, which is just more paperwork and punch list items. But as Dennis mentioned earlier, I do want to point out this construction phase is approximately 6 months longer than what we presented last time back in March 5th. And that's primarily because we know more now about consumers' process for obtaining transformers and electrical equipment. Is dependent on us passing a electrical inspection or doing their go-ready checklist, which is towards the very end of construction. And that comes with, was it a 25-week potential lead time? So this is a worst-case scenario, the October 15th, 2026. We think we have a pretty good plan in place to shorten that considerably. So,
Just so everybody's clear on that what you're saying is that Consumers Energy, who has to be on board with what we're doing here.
Right.
Ordering transformers is a very lengthy process these days, and it's about a 25-week timeline that we're looking at.
Right. Yeah. And that's pretty consistent with, it's not unique to this project, that's unique to all projects, whether it's
Right.
consumers, DTE. Transformers and electrical gear are long lead items and challenging to order.
So we're working with another entity, a partner that we have in the township, who believes that he can assist us in speeding up that process so that we can get the transformer on order before we construct a building, to have them do the electrical inspection before they order the transformer, and that's why it's a worst-case scenario. He's got, I have a contact who has the CEO of Consumers Energy on speed dial, and we're going to arrange a meeting to see if we can't, especially because it's an emergency services building. I don't want to build a building and have it sitting vacant, waiting for us to get a transformer in to power it up for, an additional 6 or 10 months. And I feel fairly confident that we can mitigate the worst-case scenario.
I'm aware of people that have had lightning strikes that have to rent them for 6 months to get a transformer, and so it's not fun.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Good. And then I just wanted to include a couple renderings so everybody knows what a beautiful facility is on the horizon.
So this is facing from Dort Highway right here.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is this is the DPW garage facility, and this is the DPW office portion, and then everything on this side is fire, with a common entrance in the middle, with a common lobby and a shared conference room.
So that drive we're looking, is that a driveway right there that we're looking at there?
Yes.
Driveway,
Yep.
right? But that won't be the driveway that the fire apparatus come in and out of? Or?
Correct. There is another one on the fire side, specifically for their use, and one that loops around the back side as well, so they can have the pull-through functionality.
Okay. So their entrance will be directly onto Dort Highway right there?
Correct. And with that, we have next steps, which we're looking for board approval and construction commencement. And then with that, I'll open it up to any other questions you may have.
Are we going, we're going to be talking about any of the bids and going through that, or?
You can. The next item on your agenda will be to consider a motion to approve the recommendation of Frank Rewald and Sons as construction manager to award the contracts to build the DPW and fire station. That entire package is in your packet, and it did have a breakdown of the bidding process, the recommendation from Frank Rewald. Kurt is here and available to answer any questions, specific questions that the board may have. But like I said, staff was in on all of the interviews with all the lowest qualified bidders, and in some case, the lowest qualified washed out, moved to the next one. But it was designed to have a wide variety of contractors. The question came up about any of them that are union. I don't know the exact number of all of the subcontractors who would be in there, but there are a number of them that are union that met the qualifications and the addendum that we had put out there as far as having journeyman and apprentice programs and the other items that were in that addendum.
Okay. Dr. Reardon?
So I'm pro-union, but did you guys give preference? Out of all the subcontractors, how many, just out of curiosity, would be union?
I do not have the number right off the top of my head. I could go through quickly and get a rough
Well,
estimate.
I mean, if it's real quick, I don't want to. I got the pack here. It's pretty thick.
So one of the things, I think one of the preference was so that they would have, apprentice programs and things like that we want to support. And,
Right.
And we had that in, so the process, Mr. Limata, or whoever wants to answer, that we went through was that we looked at the bids, and then you called in some of the top bidders or lowest bidders and interviewed them. Obviously, our general contractor, Frank Rewald, has relationships with certain known, providers, construction, whether it was electrical or concrete, what have you. And so part of it was an interview process for seeing, besides just looking at price, looking at who's going to do the best job for us as well.
Yeah, every single company had to bring representatives in. We held the meetings here in Conference Room A. They came in and, like I said, it went from 7:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. I think 4 solid days, maybe more. It's a blur. I'm just really thankful for Kurt. I told him that several times through the process because to manage it, but they also, Frank Rewald certainly does enough work in the area and has connection and has a bunch of work and familiarity with the contractors that came through. Again, every lowest qualified bidder was brought in, and it didn't mean that every one of them got the job. Some had to pull their way out, step out because of other commitments or because changes in the bid process. But I think it was incredibly transparent, wide open. Certainly every opportunity was there for both union and non-union bidders. But we didn't have a prevailing wage agreement or had to be a union agreement. You guys got to remember that this process over the last couple of years has really been driven by cost, and we were really looking at the lowest qualified bidders, the ones who would pass the interview process, could do the job, and be for the least amount.
Yeah, more so than, just that actual numbers. I just want to make sure that they were given a fair shake at it.
Absolutely. With a rough count, I count approximately 9 bid categories with union contractors that I know of off the top of my head going through here.
Okay.
How many? I know how many.
Bid category A through II, so, yeah, 30,
33-ish.
26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, it looks like.
Order.
Clerk Robertson, and then we'll get to.
A general question. I mean, obviously, we try to pursue the lowest bid, but, because the law requires it, but your expertise is saying who's really in the best position to deliver, or basically creating common denominators so you can measure every bid against every other one. So was this particular project particularly difficult in that task, or a fire hall and DPW building is not just an ordinary vanilla building, it's got some unique and special features to it. So what are your thoughts?
There was, I appreciate you asking that, and that's one area of my expertise, and an area that I enjoy is going through the bid documents and writing what we call bid scopes to make sure that everybody's bidding apples to apples. And the Grand Blanc team, I think, saw a pretty good display of that as we were doing the post-bid interviews. It's basically a checklist that we go through when the bidders are brought in to make sure that they have each of the items that they're supposed to have in the bid scopes as part of the bids. I would say probably 100 or 80 hours to 120 hours probably went into developing the project manual that we put out for bids because another big part of it is with construction, there could be underlap or overlap where you're not buying enough of the project or buying too much of the project. So part of what we deliver to the owner is making sure that you're buying every component of the project once and only once, and not paying two people to have, the same item of construction. So there was a lot of effort that went into that, and I hope that showed through our post-bid interviews and that, so.
One other question, and this may seem a simple question, but we are anticipated to have to buy a new fire truck in the not-too-distant future at a pretty considerable cost. Please tell me it will fit in this building?
That is not necessarily my area of expertise. I believe so, based on past experience, but
I'm old enough to remember many, many years ago, we had a situation where a fire truck was purchased, and much to the mild embarrassment of the individuals involved, weren't able to put it in the building that they had available to them at the time. So that was decades ago. but my memory goes back that far. I just want to make sure we
We
get.
spent considerable time with the fire department, mapping out the space needs analysis, everything from broom closets to where the trucks would be parked, so.
I'm fairly confident that the fire truck will fit, but now I'm going to stay up tonight worrying about. I'll double check my notes and inspect.
And that's not to say that equipment in the future may change shape and size that would require alterations to a building, but everything that we're planning to build right now, or buy and build, will fit together.
Yeah, there was a lot of coordination between the design team and the users of the building and their needs.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
It's the same with technology. We don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. We went from copper to fiber optic in the past 10 years, and nobody knew that, so.
Nothing's changing quicker than technology.
Right. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yeah, there seems to be a little concern or a little undercurrent about union, non-union, whatever. Michigan is a right-to-work state, am I correct?
Not anymore.
Well, it changed. It's not now, but
It's not?
no, I think as of in the past year and a half, maybe, it is no longer a right-to-work state. But if there is a union, if it's a union shop, you're part of the union. So,
So don't you have to pay union wages?
no, that's only within a company itself. So for example, if you work for XYZ company and they have a union, and you go to work there, you're going to be part of the union at XYZ company. Doesn't affect us at all in terms of who we hire to do work. That's a separate issue, really. So I guess our employees here, it affects them too, because if we have an employee union and they work for us, they become part of the union. So, but no, we shouldn't affect this. So, okay, so where are we at?
We are.
Mr. Lemata?
So you can move, if you're ready, you can move to new business 7A and have that conversation about moving forward with the recommendation of Frank Rewald and Sons to give them approval of their recommendation and authorize the superintendent to execute any and all agreements necessary to proceed with the construction of the new DPW and fire station facility.
Is a motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
It is if that's the recommendation of our superintendent, which I think.
It is a recommendation of your
Then
superintendent.
I will make that motion, if that's
Okay,
possible.
is there support? Support by Ms. Hugo.
Motion by Robertson.
Yep, we're gonna have discussion, yep. Go ahead, Mr. White.
By Hugo.
Well, my question is, we have multiple areas where the bid is not, there's no recommendation for the contract. The concrete foundations, concrete flat work, overhead doors, HVAC, I mean, these are not small areas either. I guess, one, why don't we have it? And two, how confident are we that we're going to fall within the price?
Good question, and happy to address. So there was a couple of them were related to last-minute changes with some contracts that were awarded to some of the bidders prior to this going to the board. So they, part of the post-bid interview process was understanding that they were awarded it and they couldn't perform the work anymore, so they had to withdraw, and some other minor pricing things with some of these. So I guess I hope that answers the question of why. Two, we are submitting it as a GMP, as a guaranteed maximum price, so there should be no cost escalation for hiring the subcontractors above the price that's in the GMP. And we would also be glad, if the board desires, we can bring the recommendations back before the board at the next meeting when they are finalized and ready as well to award those if need be as well, so.
I think that'd be helpful.
I mean, I'm just a little, and maybe I'm confused on this part, but we're guaranteeing the maximum price when we don't have the bids in place?
I'm sorry, so we received the bids and we talked to the low bidders in all of the categories, but the low bidders had to withdraw, and we went to the next bid, and we've had some preliminary conversations with those bidders and that, so we're comfortable and with where their bids are at and where the numbers are at.
I think if we could come back though on that, the next meeting, that'd be helpful, I think, after we finalize. So, for example, I just have a few notes. Davenport, is that one of them that we're going with, or?
Yes.
I think they're a low bidder.
Correct.
Simone Concrete Foundations, they were a low.
Correct, but they were awarded the Macomb County Jail project,
Okay.
and they were one of the contractors that had to
bow
withdraw
out.
their bid because all the
Okay.
resources are going to that project.
That Albinelli, they were quite a bit higher, or?
Correct, they were, I don't know if you want to get into specifics,
No.
but roughly $200,000.
Higher.
$250,000 higher than the low bid.
Right. Okay. So they'll finalize those bids and but we can move on and everything else, right?
We can move the whole thing forward. What we have is a guaranteed maximum.
Right.
So they're not going to come back and tell you that it's more than what's in the plan documents.
Is that what you're running? Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so are you good, Paul? Okay.
Okay. Is the roll call
Yes.
in order? Okay. Trustee White,
Yes.
trustee Raritan,
Yes.
trustee Fike,
Yes.
trustee Hugo,
Yes.
myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett,
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay. Looking forward to moving forward on this. Now, the next stage of this project, the board will consider a motion to approve Resolution 2434, authorizing the sale of bonds in the not-to-exceed amount of $35 million for construction of the DPW/fire station building, and allow the superintendent to execute all contracts and documents. Mr. Limata?
So you just saw where we were at from a price standpoint or cost standpoint, all in hard and soft costs, I think about $24.6 million. We also, when we did the notice of intent, we did it up to $35 million, not sure where at that point the bids were going to be coming in. Out of that $24 billion, we also had intended $1.3 million from ARPA funds to be used towards the fire department. We also have money in our campus capital funds that, depending on what the board wants to do, we could put an additional, $1 million or $1.5 million on there. The idea behind it being, and you can do the same thing with your enterprise funds for the DPW building as well, on their share of the building, if we don't want to finance the whole thing. And unless Bobby's going to tell us that there's this amazing interest rate out there today, that's sub 2, like when we should have built this all those years ago. and I'm not expecting him to tell you that. If the money was that cheap, we would say, let's just finance the whole thing. But I think we do have the option of doing that as we move forward before the bond issuance which would be in mid-October, October 15th, maybe. So we have the opportunity to make that determination if the board wants to buy that down. Certainly, I think we should look at the fire department. We have been operating with our rate model for the DPW with the construction of a new building at about $15 million the whole time we've had our rate model. So we have built our rates designed to be prepared for the eventuality that we would construct this building. With the fire department, it's going to be general fund expenditure. So that's, if we want to buy that down a little bit so that you're only financing potentially, $5 million or, something like that on your fire department, what that does, it's obviously going to have a lower hit on principal and interest payments moving forward for the next 20 years from the general fund for the fire station. And like you said, knowing that you're also going to be funding a $2.1 million aerial truck that is going to go on order in 2025. If we get a grant, it'll save us a lot of money, but we'll see how that shakes out. So from this point, both Bobby and Roger are here. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the resolution, about the bond issuance, about how that moves forward or what that looks like, they're here as a resource to answer those questions for the board.
Sure. Well, we've got a few questions, I'm sure. So how are rates looking these days for us, and any prediction on where we might be?
Well, I was driving here and I hit the brakes and my crystal ball broke.
Okay.
Today and tomorrow, the Federal Reserve meets. They will announce tomorrow at 5 o'clock if they're going to cut rates and by how much, if they're going to cut them. Right now, if the township was to go out and sell the bonds today, assuming today's discussions and tomorrow's discussions had no impact on the rates, you would be looking at 3.5 to 3.75% for a 20-year bond issue, given the township's financial condition. Is that a low rate? No, it's not as low as 2 as Mr. Superintendent discussed earlier, but we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So
that 3.5 to 3 3/4 is predicated on us having a very good rating, I would take, that
Correct, yeah.
Grand Blanc Township does.
Which we do.
So, pardon?
Which we do have a good rating, yeah.
Yes, you do. I think it's a AA plus,
Minus.
or AA minus, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, given that, given a 20-year, the market is still very liquid. Municipal bonds are still very good investment. The major advantage to municipal bonds is that the interest that is earned by investors is tax exempt. That is why you get the favorable rate, much lower than if an individual corporation was to go out and borrow money.
Right. So I know with our police department building a few years ago, we I think bought down or saved a fortune on the bonds.
We refinanced them, I want to say 2016, 17.
If we were to find in 10 years, future board or what have you would find that interest rates, drop dramatically, would these be able to be refinanced at a certain point?
Yes, we will put in the bond details, as we refer to it as, that the bonds, starting in year 10, can be called, which means that they can be prepaid. If interest rates are lower, you could refinance them.
Okay.
And I was just going to add, and Bobby can correct me if I'm wrong, but while we're not at the 2% from a number of years ago, rates have come down significantly over the last year. So
Yes.
this is a relatively good time, generally speaking. Not as good as it once was, but a lot better than a year ago.
A year ago, if we were financing the same project, where could have we ended up?
Probably at 4, 4.25.
Okay. Very good. Well, we don't want to wait any longer to see how the roll of the dice look, but anybody have any questions? Dr. Reardon?
Aren't they anticipating another rate cut in December?
That is what many people believe, depending on what the inflation numbers look like. Who knows? We've got 2 factors. What's going to happen this week, whether it's a 25 basis point or a 50 basis point rate cut. And then what happens on November 6th. The market may accept or not accept the winner of the election, and I don't mean that in a negative way of saying that they don't accept the results. I'm not saying it that way.
Right.
But the market will react one way or another to whoever wins the presidential race.
Okay. Mr. Fike?
I'm a little confused because I'm not an economist. So we would agree with this resolution to borrow not more than $35 million. But we don't need anywhere near that.
Correct. So what we're saying is you have time to make the adjustment. The resolutions give an authorization for us to move forward to prepare for the bond sale. And you, as a board, have time to determine, we can show you your options with, do you want to take money out of the campus capital fund, and how much do you want to take out? Does it make sense to do that? And then knowing that, you will give these gentlemen the information that we're very comfortable at, $21.5 million or whatever that number happens to be. But you don't have to go above the 24.6 million that you saw as our maximum hard and soft costs that was in the earlier presentation.
Yeah, and I would just add, we've drafted this in what we call a parameters format, so we just set the outward bounds, so we can't go above that amount, we can't go past April 1, 2045 for the final maturity. Interest rates can't be higher than 6%. We're not expecting to be anywhere near 6% or anywhere near 35 million. The resolution does delegate to authorized officers to finalize the dollar amounts. And not only from a policy perspective, but from a tax perspective, I'm not going to want to see you borrow more than that $24 million number, plus costs of issuance of bonds, and if there are any reimbursements that need to be made to the township. But we need to make sure that final number is not more than you need, because we need to assure that for tax purposes. But just given the fluidity, we didn't want to zero in exactly tonight.
Sure.
Because otherwise, we might have to come back to make changes if things.
I guess, we could use the analogy that if we were buying a home, we're getting pre-approval, and we're going to take a little bit of time to figure out what other expenses that we want to use our capital fund for. We talked about having a fire apparatus. It's going to probably be $2.5 million that typically, if you pay for it up front, you save substantially when you order it, that is. And then wait probably a couple of years to get it. But so this gives us some wiggle room to take a look at where we want to be with putting cash towards the construction or putting it wherever, so from different funds that we could pull from.
So next step, what we would do is we're going to go back, we're going to take this 24,687 number, add the cost of issuance, the cost to borrow the money. Then we will present it to the superintendent and say, here's your total project cost, all the cost included, and then ask, how much money do you want to contribute? Or we may ask it, we're going to ask two questions. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, it's just somebody walked in, I want to make sure.
Then we're going to ask another question. Is there a number you want this bond issue to be? And then we'll tell you how much you have to contribute. We'll show you the debt service requirements for this dollar amount or these dollar amounts. We can, run 21.5. We can run 22.3. We can
Okay.
run 18.6.
Sure.
I mean, whatever the number comes out.
Right, okay,
You can shake it up, and whatever comes out, we'll work it.
right,
Show it to you, then make a decision.
very good.
Proposed bond sale date, I believe, is October 15, right,
15th,
Bobby?
correct.
Yeah, so by that first week of October, we're going to want to zero in on the exact number. We'll then put that in a notice of sale for the bonds, and that'll go out to the entire bond buying world in what we call a competitive sale, so that number will get finalized then, and by taking bids from kind of the whole world of bond buyers, you'll know that you've got a good competitive interest rate.
Okay. Everybody good with that scenario?
Yeah.
Mr. White, you good? Okay. Dr. Reardon?
I'll make a motion that we.
Okay. Motion by Dr. Reardon, support by Mr. Fike.
Fike on item 7B. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it. And our bond counsel, we work with them on a regular basis with regard to, Mr. Laddie,
I just wanted to mention
Yeah.
that because Rogers, for I think the last 10 years or so, Roger has been instrumental in arranging for our bond financing for nearly all of our projects that we don't finance in-house. And so I always appreciate his expertise and availability, and hopefully will continue for the indefinite future.
very good.
They're also on your agenda item, new business, 7F, Resolution 2436 is authorizing the issuance of special assessment bonds in a not-to-exceed amount. Again, it's a not-to-exceed amount because I'm having a hard time getting a final number from the Genesee County Road Commission. Although I have a somewhat final number today, I'm assuming.
Somewhat final number, huh?
Yeah, and we're going to do the exact same thing and this is for Concord Green and Kings Point. Concord Green was completed in 2023. There's about $342,000 left to pay on that. Kings Point has just been a process. They were supposed to do it last year. They billed us for the 50% up front last August because it was going to get substantially completed in 2023, but it has finally completed as of a few weeks ago. I'm just having a really hard time getting a final number of what our final number.
That final number comes from the Genesee County Road Commission, right?
Yep.
So, okay. Well, let's move on to the next item on our agenda.
7C, Mr. Supervisor.
7C, the board will consider a motion to approve the 2024 tax rate request form L 4029. Mr. Limata?
So this is your 4029 that has to go to the county. It's the way we let them know how much our millage rates are going to be to support the tax year. You'll see on here all your villages and what was subject to the millage, the Hadley millage reduction faction, and what our various millages are. Your operating millage, originally authorized at 5 mills, is now 4.3876. So you do have some room to move on the Hadley Amendment if we needed to do so. Police millage at 1.4941, mosquito millage at 0.1350, fire millage at 0.9718, and the Parks and Recreation millage to be levied 0.2399. I do want to point out that your Parks and Recreation millage is set to expire December 31st of 2025. So if you want to continue to fund capital improvements at Bicentennial Park, you will need to have that conversation sometime in 2025 to either get a millage question on there, because that will be the last time you're able to collect funds in the December 2025 tax bill. It will go out. So sometime 2025 or 2026, you're going to want to answer that millage question about moving it forward.
Okay.
We need approval to move that forward. We do a truth in taxation hearing at the time of our budget adoption, which this will come back before you again, but we do have to have this at the county by September 30th or October 1st, September 30th. And I would just need a motion to authorize the 4029 to be signed by the supervisor and clerk and forward that to the Genesee County.
That document is in everybody's packet and was in the packet online, so the public could look at it as well.
Is the motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
All right, then I will make that motion.
Okay. Supported by Ms. Hugo.
Supported by Hugo on item 7C. Trustee Raridan?
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And item 7D, the board will consider a motion to approve the resolution 24-35 honoring the achievements of Grand Blanc native Grant Fisher and also making August 2nd Grant Fisher Day here in Grand Blanc Township. Just briefly, whereas the Township Board wishes to recognize former resident Grant Fisher for his achievement in the 2024 Paris Olympics, and whereas Grant is the son of Dan and Sonia Fisher and the brother of Haley and Mark. He began running in 7th grade here in Grand Blanc Township when he joined middle school cross-country team, played varsity soccer throughout high school. He holds American records in the 3,000-meter, 2-mile, 5,000-meter, and 10,000-meter events. In high school here in Grand Blanc Township, he was named the Gatorade Player of the Year for cross-country for 2013 through 2014 and 2014 through 2015, which at 2 years in a row is phenomenal for getting that award. On June 4th, 2015, he became the 7th American high school student to run a mile under 4 minutes. An 11-time All-American, Fisher won the 2017 NCAA Outdoor Track and Field 5,000-meter championship and became the first American underclassman to do so in 28 years. At the 2024 Paris Olympics, Fisher earned bronze medals in both the 10,000-meter race and the 50-meter race, becoming the first American to medal in both events at Olympic Games. And so therefore, Grand Blanc Township congratulates Grant Fisher on the significant achievement, and we want to honor him with a resolution which will be presented next Friday as I believe Ascension Genesis will be naming their track after him, and also he'll be recognized at halftime during the homecoming game next Friday evening, and at the parade prior to that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion from Ms. Hugo, supported by Trustee Fike.
Supported by Fike. Trustee Fike? Yes. Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item E, the board will consider a motion to approve Asphalt Specialists LLC, which known as ASI, base quote of $300,000, along with a line item, extra pricing to repave the Grand Blanc Township Police Department parking lot with the entire project budget not to exceed $370,000, and authorize the Township Superintendent to execute all contracts, documents, extras, and the purchase orders that are related to the entire project. Good evening, Mr. Cooley.
Good evening, Board. This is an agenda item that had come before the board back in the end of June. At that time, Assistant Director Greg Boggs had presented it to the board, and Trustee White had requested that we had looked at some different options, and Mr. Boggs was working on that. I'm going to go ahead and let him speak on this agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Everyone. So yeah, back in June 25th, we all had a conversation about the disrepair of the police department parking lot. It was put in 2008. Its construction was poor, the ground was poor, and we've been searching for options to do something with it. I obtained some quotes from contractors, and we wanted to have a conversation about trying to do it all in 1 year or phasing it out. And I think the consensus was we were going to get it done, and Trustee White brought up the great idea about if we could combine it with the DPW and fire station facility to have a cost savings. So we put that as a bid alternate into that scope of work, and although it wasn't a savings total, we did be able to solicit a couple more bids, and the price was cheaper through that process. So we interviewed that contractor. They're able to come in and get it done this year still, and we would, save some costs from some of the vendors that I already solicited. So we put in contingencies of inspection. We have the curb portion of it getting ready to mobilize. We've got some curb replacements to do, and then we put in some, we wanted a cushion budget, so if we run into bad ground, we can stabilize the soils and whatnot, so we could make sure this will last indefinitely, a lot longer than it has lasted, so.
So basically, a contingency, if they dig out the current lot and they see an area that really needs some beefing up.
Yes, some undercutting.
That there's some extra in there for doing that.
Yes, so we already went out and did soil borings. I took 10 spots through periodically, strategic locations in the parking lot. And we do have some good sub-base there, but those are just sample points. So
Right.
like I said, we tear into it and we run into some punky ground. We have, pricing and money to shore those areas up.
And we're confident, we verified that the construction for the fire department isn't going to be going over this part that we're paving, or at least.
No, not at all. That's just, we're not even touching the service drive. We'll address that after construction of the new DPW and fire station is built.
Okay, any questions, thoughts, concerns? It is very rough shape. If anybody has driven through there, it's amazing that it's holding together still. It's alligatored throughout.
Chief's employees complain about it all the time. He's tired of it.
You don't want it to be a trip hazard, so.
Item 7E. Mr.
Yes,
Supervisor.
so if somebody cares to make that motion, Dr. Reardon makes the motion, Ms. Hugo supports it.
Motion by Reardon, supported by Hugo on item 7E. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes,
7-0. Motion passes.
thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks. Thanks for your work on that. Item F, the board will consider Resolution 24-36, authorizing the issuance of special assessment bonds in a not-to-exceed amount of $1,580,000 for the purpose of defraying the cost of public improvements consisting of street repairs within the Kings Point Special Assessment District and the Concord Green Street Paving Special Assessment District. Mr. Limita?
As I alluded to earlier, this is going to take care of finalizing Concord Green Special Assessment District, as well as Kings Point. We put it again, like I said, at a not-to-exceed amount for the resolution based on the highest amount that we thought could possibly be. According to the email that I have right now, Kings Point came in pretty decent on the bid. It may be about $616,310, which added to the $350,000 that we had outstanding on Concord Green, is going to put you just under $1 million for this bond, if that number holds.
Trustee Fike?
So refresh my memory, Dennis. We're like the bank, right?
Yep.
This isn't money that we're really spending. We're getting money from the residents and it's kind of going through, right?
It's, when you create the special assessment district, all we're doing is being, and I think it's a good point of clarification, Trustee Fike, is that we really are, we handle the financing end of it. We don't own the roads. We don't finance roads really, other than through special assessments. So the folks came to us and said, we really want to fix our roads. Will you guys do it? The contracts for fixing the roads are all through Genesee County Road Commission because they are the Act 51 agency. We really do, we have the ability to put a tax lien on properties for the amount owed. But they go out, they do the work. If at least 51% of them come back and tell us that they want to move forward, the board authorizes it. So this is the part where we pay for it. And they always take a while to get a final number from these guys. This one has just been exceptionally long process since, like I said, it started a year ago last August when they billed us for 50%. But if that number is, and I just got it, so I'll review it, but if that number is true, that's it. You know, what we're saying is that we're going to issue special assessment bonds to the tune of about $1 million for both those projects. 100% paid. All of the bond costs, the issuance costs get incorporated in there. The interest is in there, and the residents agree to pay it over the life of the, expected life of the street repair. It depends on the road commission when they guarantee it, but typically it's 10 to 15 years.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kilmer?
So most of the stuff in Kings Point, I know, is done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Kings Point is really substantially completed other than some punch list items. I think the biggest thing with Kings Point, they're working with their contractor to argue about some quantities, but that really has nothing to do with us. We have how much is it going to cost us? What's the final cost to Grand Blanc Township? We also did a sump collector project out there at the same time that is responsible for us to pay for through the DPW, but that's completely separate from these street bonds, and that's not something that we're including in this bond sale. That's being paid for by our DPW funds.
Okay.
Is a motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, it is.
And I'll make the motion on item 7F.
Okay, supported by Dr. Reardon.
Supported by Reardon. Trustee Hugo.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
7-0. Motion passes.
Okay. Future agenda items, Mr. Lehman, anything Mr. Meyer?
No, actually, I think, like you said last time, we're going to start going, thanks, Roger. We always start doing our budget reviews moving forward from here on out. We typically get it to the board by September 1st, and then we start the first meeting in October in order to do the budget presentation and start opening up to see if you guys have any questions or if there's anything that you specifically want to deep dive into. I'm trying to struggle through with some scheduling challenges right now, and whether that happens your meeting is on October 1st, I believe. The following meeting would be October 15th. I am not going to be here on that October 15th meeting. I can't cancel another vacation or else I won't be married anymore. And I kind of like her. We've been together for 40 years, so I hate to mess that up at this point.
break that.
And so we're still working through there. I will let you know if we can pull it off on October 1st and give the, just that general, we don't have to dive in like we did on the initial first year or the second year. But at this point, you guys are grizzled veterans of the budgeting process. We can do that top 10,000 foot view. Here's where our anticipated revenues are. You've had the budgets, at that point for a month, and then we'll talk about any challenges to expenses. We just, there's not a lot of changes. You guys saw that in the review of your documents, I'm sure, at this point. We're not requesting a lot of big changes. We're just trying to maintain status quo and get prepared to pay for these buildings and the challenges ahead of us.
All right, with that, anything, Dr. Reardon, Ms. Hugo?
Nope.
Treasurer Kilmer? Clerk Robertson?
No, sir.
Trustees? No? Okay. With that, just a few things that I wanted to bring up that, one is on the streetlights. We are awaiting those. We ran into some issues with Consumers Energy and a little bit of wetland issues that we're working through. We had been waiting quite a while for the actual lights to come in, and now consumers, where the lights are going, there shouldn't be any problem, but it's bringing in the heavy equipment because along Dort Highway, they're going to have to put in a number of poles, and I believe it's the equipment that's going to be the issue with the wetlands. So we're trying to work through that, I believe. Correct, Mr. Boggs? On that? So they are coming. I've had residents ask, I thought we were going to get lights, and it's like, yes, we are. It's, we're trying to move it along, but there's kind of like a puzzle all fitting together. It's kind of like the warehouse on Dort Highway. And I know a couple of board members have received questions, and I have too. One of the things that people that have had insurance claims can understand is that insurance companies don't always move quickly through claims. That particular building had multiple tenants. It had multiple insurers, multiple owners and businesses inside. And so working through all of those insurance entities has taken some time. It ends up, getting close to going to court in a lot of cases. We've had residents ask, well, can't we put a timeline on how quickly they have to move through this? But I think, anybody that's been involved in litigation will tell you that the timeline is set by the court. We could have some kind of timeline put in place, but it isn't going to matter worth a hill of beans when it comes to settling insurance claims and, looking like it's going to get litigious. So while it's a nice thought to have a timeline, I don't really see that working at all in this case, unless Mr. Laddie begs to differ.
No, you're exactly right.
With that, I drove by there today, and construction has started. So they are starting to clean out the material, and then after they clean out all the material, then they will start on the construction project itself. So it is starting to move. I had people ask about Tech Village. It is a project in progress. It isn't something that's on the back burner. There is active work being done to do the pre-engineering that would be required for where the road would go, where the water and sewer. Actually, I know that the investors have been meeting with a few people to look at bringing other developers in to help with it. And it is a project that's alive and well and moving forward. We held on September 5th the Pathways Connection. I know we brought it up at the last meeting that we were going to have that. We had a press conference, brought together the County Parks and Recreation, the Community Foundation, and we kicked that off where our goal is to raise $800,000 to complete that Iron Bell pathway. So that was a very nice event, and thanks to Ms. Roberts for organizing that. A couple of things. One, as you may notice, along 475 between Hill Road and up to Bristol Road, a group here in Grand Blanc Township actually took on cleaning up that section. I believe it's the Knights of Columbus actually took that on, but we also have a GM SPO group that cleans up the Dort Highway section between the roundabouts all the way up to Hill Road, and they do that several times a year. So besides our own beautification efforts, we have outside groups that are helping us, and that's very commendable. We appreciate their work. The Genesee County Road Commission, one thing that's very interesting that our residents as well as our board members may want to check out on the Genesee County Road Commission website, there's been a study that's ongoing with regard to US 23, and you may think, well, we don't have US 23 running through Grand Blanc Township, but we know that a lot of our residents utilize it, and they go down to Thompson Road and get on there. But the study is very interesting. And, one thing that was brought up today during the meeting that we discussed this was that, in the past, they used to have people sitting and counting how many cars are coming through a particular intersection or down a road. These days, they can actually use cell phone data for tracking the amount of traffic that they can actually see at any given exit, and even our own streets here. You can actually track the volume of traffic using cell phone data. And so that was something very interesting to learn about, that even in our own community, we could even see, how many people go into a certain area, if they're coming from our community or if they're coming from outside. And one last thing is that the Grant Fisher Award, we're going to give that out next Friday, and I know that our board's going to be present for that, and that's going to be a fabulous event. I missed one thing. Mara Technologies undergoing a $40 million investment right now on Holly Road, which is just huge for this township. We probably become accustomed to these size developments going on because we've had so many, but any other community, a $40 million investment is no small change. We actually had the Assistant Secretary of Commerce from the federal government, Alan Davidson, in town a couple weeks ago for the press conference. The technology equipment they're building out there is just incredible. But one thing that everybody should note is they're hiring another 200 employees at that facility. They have about 250 employed currently. They're hiring another 200 full-time workers with benefits. And I believe the starting wage is between $17 and $18. And I know we've shared some of that information, some of us on our social media, but they're actively seeking employees and building out this addition to their facility. But great things happening in our township with the development, but also bringing good paying jobs that people can live off of. And that's our goal, is to keep our young people here instead of educating them and then shipping them off to distant lands. So some good news that this township needs to be aware of. With that, Mr. Limata or Mr. Laddie, anything?
I'm all set.
Okay.
I have one thing for the board. We're still in ongoing negotiations with your IAFF union, your full-time firefighters. We were in a long day last Friday. We're back at it again this Friday, I believe. We've made significant progress. I think we're down to about 4 items that still need to be addressed. I can just say that I feel fairly confident we're going to get it done probably in one more day of negotiation. We're close to accomplishing what we want to accomplish and get that agreement tentatively agreed to by the union and to the board at your next meeting.
Well, we appreciate the hard work that goes into those by you and your team, Dennis, and as well as our firefighters and their crew. And we're glad things are moving forward on that front. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dr. Reardon, supported by Mr. Fike. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:26. 7:26 PM.